John Morris has spent his career in the people business in the various capacities as chaplain, pastoral counselor, and addictions counselor. In his retirement from a 25-year career with Yavapai County, he's spending his days traveling and hiking, cooking, and public speaking. John is proudest of his marriage to Greta Stromberg and being the father of 2 brilliant daughters and 4 wonderful grandchildren. He attributes his good fortune to being a person in long-term recovery. John.
Thank you, Lee. Stories that matter. A person that matters. My grandmother, my paternal grandmother, Charles E. Ida Lee Morris. She was born in Carroll County, Georgia. She was a Southern woman through and through. In fact, when I was thinking about this story, I wanted to share with y'all, all y'all. That's plural for y'all. And I thought of her, and I thought of the term steel magnolia, which I looked up the definition, and it's something like an example of femininity and uncommon valor. And I would say that describes my grandmother, although not much on the feminine side, because she really was not, much interested in that part. And you'll know why as I share the story with you. But she really had courage and strength and great love for her family and for her number 1 grandson, which was me. And the reason she matters to me is that she has really, even though she's been dead for 32 years, she made a major impact on me as a child and as a young adult later in life. She grew up on a farm in Carroll County, Georgia, in a little village called Temple, Georgia. You can look it up. It's a little crossroads over in West Georgia. She knew the value of hard work. In fact, often would quote that she would earn her living by the sweat of her brow. Later, she married a local boy, my paternal grandfather, who didn't really share her enthusiasm for hard work. In fact, he was more interested in moonshine and running moonshine. And he was, turns out, a very violent alcoholic. And as a result, in 1935, my grandmother divorced my grandfather and raised my father and my aunt all on her own, by her own tenacity and her own creativity, which really proved her commitment to her family and the love that she showed. If you think back in 1935, to be a divorced single mother, it was not a popular thing for a woman particularly. But through her tenacity and what she learned living through the Depression and learned on the farm was hard work. And this lady could make anything out of anything. She was industrious. She was a seamstress. That's how she earned her living. And she would do laundry. She would make dresses and shirts. In fact, when I went into first grade, the first shirt I wore was a dress. Not a dress, well, that's another story. But anyway, she made a shirt for me, which I proudly wore on my first day in first grade. But she could tat, lace. She could crochet. She could knit. And this woman was a true Southern cook because she could make comfort food. You know what I'm talking about. Fried chicken, biscuits and gravy, macaroni and cheese. And I haven't even told you about made from scratch banana pudding. That's how we say it back from our banana pudding. I still think about that. And anytime she came to visit us in my family, it was always excitement. Now, something else about my grandmother. She never had a driver's license. She never flew in an airplane. She was born on April the 1st of 1899. April the 1st, remember that. Because it really fit with my grandmother. And she was no fool. But she had a great sense of humor. And she was young at heart. In fact, when she would come visit, I was in 4th grade. My sister was 3 years younger than me, and I was rehearsing for a play, and I had to do this Indian dance, so I was showing my sister, and she was helping me. We were whooping and hollering and dancing around and making sure we got our steps right, and my grandmother was watching TV, sitting over there quietly in the corner in an easy chair. Now, I don't know why, but my grandmother loved to scare the bejesus out of us, and we would forget this thing. So we're, practicing our dance moves. My sister's helping me. And then all of a sudden, she just lets out a screech out of nowhere. Ah! And, of course, after that, we made it a big game. And so we kept dancing so she would scare us some more. But anyway, she was young at heart. Now, I grew up in what we, modern parlance, is a dysfunctional family. My father, because of the legacy of his violent alcoholic father, lived by rage and anger. And my mother was addicted to the prescription drug Darvon and was chronically depressed. Now, I didn't know any of these things when I was younger. This is all because of a lot of therapy and a lot of work that I've done, and I've uncovered some things. So my grandmother would come when my mother was sick and come and take care of us. And we could always count on her consistency. And so that uncommon valor that she would show and that tenacity and love for her family, she would always show up at the right time. And as a little kid, I just thought, well, this is what grandmothers do, because that's what she did. And again, I got to experience the gift that she gave me, which served me later in life, of the felt sense of unconditional love. Now, let me tell you, I probably don't need to tell you what a gift that is, because I've worked in the field with people who never experienced that. And the research shows that if there's one adult who's looking out for your well-being, if they're in your life and you know it, the trajectory for positive things in your life increases exponentially. I was fortunate for that. Now, later in life, I got married. You heard a little bit about my resume. I was a Baptist preacher. I never would have thought that, looking back from how I grew up. But after my mother died, my life took a trajectory, and I got involved in the church, and it got me out of South Florida, where I was a hooligan, basically. A bunch of my buddies, and, in the 70s, late 60s, cocaine was very popular coming in from Cuba and South America. Fortunately, I didn't get involved in that, but I did enough things, believe me. Things I got caught for, but things I should have gotten caught for. Thank God I didn't, I guess. But as a result, I got married. I didn't really know how to do this family thing. It was kind of a strange enterprise for me. I'd see it on TV. I saw it in movies. I saw it in maybe other families. So I did the best I could. But at about 10 years, it all fell apart. Primarily because of my own alcoholism and my inability to bond significantly with another. And there I am in Nashville, Tennessee, serving as chaplain, pastoral counselor at 800-bed hospital in the buckle of the Bible Belt. And it doesn't lead to longevity in one's career when at the buckle of the Bible Belt when you're drinking and carousing. It doesn't bode well. But fortunately, it was the springboard for change for me, because any significant change that I've ever experienced, and maybe you have too, comes from some modicum of pain. Something, my behavior could be really objectionable to you, But until it's objectionable to me, there's no chance for change. Back to my grandmother. So I'm here in Prescott. I'm one of those. I stayed. I went to treatment here. And 3 months into my 5-month stint at Prescott House, which is an extended care treatment facility for men, which I learned a heck of a lot about how to be a man in the world. Before that, I was playing sports. I could do all these things, but I didn't know how to be intimate. I didn't know how to be vulnerable. I didn't even think that was possible, because to be vulnerable, the way I grew up, meant pain. You were going to get hurt. At any rate, a third month into my treatment, I get a call from my sister saying Grammy's in the hospital. She was in Florida, where she was living, Panama City, Florida, with my aunt. And so I call the number my sister gave me at the hospital, and she answered the phone. How does that happen? This was in May of '91. She picks up the phone. Grammy, how are you? I'm so worried about you. And she said, Johnny, I'm doing okay. I'm in the hospital. Don't worry. Again, showing that love and care. More concerned about me than she was for herself. And as I found out she was doing well, she ends the conversation with this. She said, and she never really talked to me about this. I'd ask her a few questions like, Grammy, what was your motto? And she said, my motto is, be kind to the neighbors and live and let live. She lived by that. So at any rate, she said, Johnny, I had a dream last night. 2 men in suits walked in with you into my room and said, Johnny is going to be all right. The next day she died. But I must tell you, I grieved longer and harder for my mother's death than I did for my grandmother. There's something about the quality of that relationship. You would think I'd want more of that and really fight to keep it. But the truth was, when there's positivity like that she exemplified, made the grieving so much easier. And grief is never easy. Let's just say it made it better. I saw a bumper sticker. You may have seen it around here. It says, God, help me be the man my dog thinks I am. And I must tell you, because of my grandmother, I'm the man, because of the memories that I have, and because of her unconditional love for me, I'm the man I want to be. So I'm going to do a bumper sticker. Because you heard, I have some grandkids now. They're wonderful. I show you pictures later at the break. Tell you about my grandson. He plays baseball. Jackson Roper, remember that name? Anyway, I digress. My bumper sticker will be, God, help me be the grandparent my grandmother was to me.